Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian, and yes, if you're seeing this channel, you know it's called the Arizona Latender. No, that doesn't mean that's where I'm located. That means that's where I'm from. I'm actually coming to you from the St. Louis area of Missouri. To give you a little bit of background on me so you know where I'm coming from as we share this video and all future videos. I am married with a wonderful wife, and I have 3 awesome children. So when I talk about the safety and aspects of my rides and things that are across my mind, remember, I want to get home every night. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm from. Now, let's get into a little bit more about this particular video. This video I'm making is a first ride comparison to having 6 years out of motorcycle riding and jumping onto a brand new piece of technology, a 2020 Yamaha FJR. We'll talk more about this bike in a minute, but let me give you a little bit of history on where I came from with my motorcycle. I started my riding journey on a 1994 Kawasaki Ninja 500R. For those of you familiar with the Ninja, you know it is a sport bike configuration where your feet are behind you, your back is crouched over the fuel tank a little bit more of the motorcycle, and you are much more in an aerodynamic platform. They're made for fast riding, great maneuvering, and if you like the speed and those types of conditions, then that may be the bike that you're interested in. I would not recommend my previous bike, however, because as a learner, and I bought it from a learner, it had been dropped more than once. After the Kawasaki Ninja and determining that I really didn't care for the sport bikes personally, I stepped into a Suzuki GS 650, check my notes, a 1983 Suzuki GS 650, and that's a cruiser. That's a 650cc cruiser bike. Your feet are now in front of you, much like sitting in a desk chair, and your hands are out in a very relaxed position as you hold the handlebars. As I rode that bike for a very brief amount of time, I found that really wasn't the position that I favored in my riding style as well. I'm not one to sit back comfortably. I want to have a little bit more of that positive control and weight forward on the motorcycle. So from there, I sold the Suzuki, and I had to wait a little bit till I found what I wanted. Since I was commuting on a motorcycle each day, I switched over to a scooter. I will say I have owned a scooter. I owned a 2010 Supra 50cc scooter. That thing got me to work, and that's all it did. Got me to work and got me home. I wasn't a fan of the scooter, so that didn't stick around in my life very long, but it was an interesting experience. And again, seated posture, your feet directly below you, and if you've ever ridden a scooter, you know you're very close to everything and you don't feel like you have any authority out there. So a little bit too scary for my taste. I did get rid of the scooter pretty quickly. The most recent motorcycle before the one behind me that I've owned was a 2003 Kawasaki Concourse ZG1000. This is the first generation, or possibly second, I don't remember, of Concourse, but it was a beautiful motorcycle. Absolutely loved it. And to tell you a little bit about my history with that motorcycle, I rode it 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It was my commuter to go to work. It was my commuter to go to the grocery store, to go to events, to go anywhere and everywhere I needed to go. I had 400 and 500 mile rides on that bike. I had 7 and 8 mile rides to work on that bike. I rode with one of my kids. I rode with my wife. That was absolutely the vehicle I took everywhere. I loved the seating posture. It's what's known as a sport touring, and if you're not familiar with motorcycles, a sport touring puts your feet directly below your butt. And so what happens is, as you're in a sport touring, to me, you have a little bit more authority on your feet to stand up if you need to. You also have your weight a little more forward, and in my case, my weight was a little bit more on my wrists, which gave me that positive control on the handlebars if I needed to for maneuvering, especially in emergencies. That fit me perfectly. Fits my riding style, fits my desire, and it was absolutely... Unfortunately, due to some circumstances in our family, I had to sell the Concourse in 2014, and I have not owned a motorcycle until last week. Now, if you're watching this video sometime down in the future, it is May 2020 right now. It's actually Memorial Day weekend. I bought this bike about a week ago, and I have already done just a few rides on it. I plan on getting a little bit more miles under my belt here very soon. But I wanted to give you this video and share with you my feelings coming back to a piece of brand new technology. All the bells and whistles are in this motorcycle after not riding for 6 years. So that's what this video is. It's my first ride impressions of the 2020 Yamaha FJR 1300ES. Dive too deep into this brand new motorcycle and this brand new toy, as it is, I'll admit, from Yamaha. I do want to tell you a little bit about my history and my style when it comes to personal gear on the motorcycle. Whenever I ride or whenever I have a passenger, I require everything. There's a saying out there, if you've ever talked to motorcycle riders, that's enjoy the ride, but dress for the slide. What that means is dress, be ready for anything. Have your safety gear. There's a phrase or an acronym of ATGAT. That's ATGATT. You ready? All the gear, all the time. ATGAT. I follow that to the letter. You can see here in the picture, I've got my helmet right here next to the bike with me. My jacket stays very nearby. I always will wear my riding jacket, whether it's a vented coat or whether it's this one, which has a little bit more waterproofing to it. Appropriate padding on especially the elbows and shoulders, something on the back as well. Always wear my helmet, always wear my jacket, always wear full closed-toed shoes. Now, most of the time for me, I will put on a boot. Not always. I've been known to ride in my tennis shoes, or in my case, I don't wear tennis shoes, but I wear hiking shoes everywhere I go. And so I've been known to jump on the bike with those if necessary. But the helmet and the jacket always, always, always will be with me if I'm moving the motorcycle in any. So that's me. Big on safety, big on personal protection. If you ride with me, my kids and my wife, whoever, helmet, jacket, closed-toed shoes, mandatory. No shorts. I do require pants of some sort whenever I'm riding or riding with someone. Usually blue jeans at a minimum because it's a little bit thicker. Again, enjoy the ride, but dress for the slide. So with that, let's take a look at this new beauty right behind me. All right, what you see behind me here is a 2020 Yamaha FJR 1300ES. Now, I am not going to go through all the specifications of the motorcycle. I would anticipate that most of you who are doing your research or looking at this have been to Yamaha's website. If not, go to the website, check out all the specs. You can see the weight, the height, the disc size on the brakes, all about the engine, the tuning, and the transmission, everything you want to know about this motorcycle. So this video is about some of my favorite things. As I've alluded to, I really like the sport touring posture of a motorcycle. Now, I am 6'3" tall. Of that 6'3", I have a 36-inch inseam, which means I'm a tall guy with long legs. Basically, I need something that keeps me higher off the ground. One of the first things I love about the FJR is, of course, the sport touring design of the motorcycle. The seat has an adjustable height, so I have it onto the high position for more comfortable riding for me. And then being sport touring, if I move my leg, you can see here's the rider's foot peg. So again, where I'm sitting, straight below me is the foot peg. That's the sport touring position. Cruiser would be a little bit more up here. Sport bike, you'd be back here on the passenger pegs for the FJR. So that's the three different configurations, and I absolutely love the sport touring configuration. Keeps me lean slightly forward, very comfortable for me when I'm out there on the bike. This particular motorcycle has an electronic suspension system, and I've already begun playing with it as I'm along the roads and trying some different settings as I rode this home. Keep in mind, I brought this motorcycle home from the dealership with 3 miles on it. It now has just over 40 miles when I'm giving you this video because I wanted to have a true first impression video. Not, I've ridden this for a couple hundred miles, let me tell you what I think. This is truly my first impression. I rode this 35 miles to come home, plus the 3 that were on it, and I've given my kids a couple rides. There are 42 miles on this motorcycle right now. Truly, one of my favorite things is the electronic suspension. On the highway coming home, I got to play with this a little bit. It has 3 settings. It has a standard, it has a hard, and it has a soft. Each of those settings have 3 settings themselves. You have the 0, -3, or +3. So you have 0, -1, -2, -3, or 0, +1, +2, +3. So you can see there's 7 settings in 3 different modes. That's 21 possible presets for how to have the suspension loaded on this bike. I played with about 6 of them coming home, and it is so amazing to feel the difference in the ride. In addition to the electronic suspension, the entire motorcycle has 2 modes in the computer. You have a touring mode and a sport mode. I will admit I have not played with sport mode yet. I've been in touring mode because I'm getting back into riding and I didn't want something that was going to jump off the line. However, in touring mode, this motorcycle already has an absolute ton of power. So I am in love with the suspension and the tuning that comes straight from the Yamaha factory. In addition, as a big safety guy, this motorcycle is complete with anti-lock braking system, ABS, and a traction control system, both of which from my history would have been very helpful. When I was on my concourse, I used to ride it 7 days a week, as I mentioned earlier. So rain and snow, that traction control would have been great because I did feel a little bit of slide sometimes. The other thing that I really love is the anti-lock braking system. If I have an emergency and I need to stop this bike, I can mash on it and my brain doesn't have to worry about feathering the pedals or feathering the handlebar brake. That is very important to me because if you know anything about psychology, you know in an emergency your brain reverts to what it's tuned for. Well, I'm not the youngest buck in the shed, but I will tell you that I am young enough, or I should say old enough, that I have never driven with anything without anti-lock braking as a true daily driver. Even my full-size cars have all had anti-lock brakes growing up. Yes, I've driven some older cars, but never where that was a need and I had to practice emergency braking without anti-locks. So I did not want on the motorcycle my brain to click into mash that brake and hold it if I didn't have anti-locks. See what I'm getting at? So that is very important to me. Those two features are big to me. And again, safety. One of my other favorite features on this motorcycle from the ride standpoint is the adjustable windscreen. My concourse did not have an adjustable windscreen. I bought a taller windscreen specifically to give myself that air bubble on the highway rides. If you know anything again about motorcycles, or if you don't, when you're riding, the windscreen is not made for you to look through. You will and you can in some cases, but overall the windscreen is there to direct the airflow and the bubble, as we call it, up and over your body. If you're going on slow cruising routes, you might want the airflow to hit you right here in the chest area. And with the windscreen down on this bike, I'm actually hit right here low in my chest, right on my sternum area. With the windscreen in the full up position, the idea is it creates a bubble of air over you. Helps with wind noise reduction, also helps with just some of the overall warmth if you're riding in cold weather and things like that. There's a lot of reasons we enjoy that. Well, with the windscreen fully up on this motorcycle, it brings that air from here at my sternum to about mid-face. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means yes, I'm going to be looking at a taller windscreen eventually. So that is something I will be adding and that'll be covered in future videos. But the adjustability of that while I'm on the ride is one of my favorite features. Another is one that you might get a chuckle out of, and I did. Cruise control. Yeah, that's right, cruise control. This motorcycle has a full computer-controlled cruise control system. It's a drive-by-wire. There are no cables from my throttle down to the engine for how to control where I'm going. Many motorcycle riders will put what's called a throttle lock on. It's a clamp that will hold that twist right where you want it. This does not have that. It has a full cruise control system. So I set the cruise just like your car. Turn it on, hit set, and the motorcycle maintains speed. I would have never thought I would have liked that feature. But I tell you what, it was a blast using it coming home. It was so much fun to get to use cruise control. And I've read a lot more about it. The system has limits, it has limitations to kick it off automatically, just like your car does. So Yamaha has done a great job with the cruise control. For the next part of this video, I want to talk to you a little bit more about my first ride on this motorcycle. And as I alluded to, I bought this bike with 3 miles on it. I rode it home just over 30 miles and I've given my kids a couple of rides. So it has just over 40 miles on the motorcycle right now. It is by far the newest vehicle I have ever owned and I absolutely love it. But I want to give you my first impressions. I have not ridden since 2014 when I sold my Kawasaki Concourse. So after just over 6 years, timing-wise, I am now jumping onto this Yamaha FJR, and I wanted to give you my first impressions. And I had to take a few notes because I didn't want this to be based on future rides, and I didn't know how soon I'd get this video put together. So my first thing is, the Yamaha FJR is extremely easy to ride. This motorcycle is by far one of the easiest things I've ever gotten on to ride. And I've seen a lot of comments and stuff in forums that it's fairly top heavy. And that's true. At a stop, it is fairly top heavy. The battery is up high, just under this panel here. The fuel tank is located up high, unlike a lot of the cruisers where it's located down. So you do have a lot of weight up high for center of gravity. But what's really amazing to me is this motorcycle, the moment you get the slightest bit on the throttle, even just coming out of a parking lot, it is stable. It's as stable as I've ever ridden. It is more stable than my Kawasaki Concourse. My Concourse felt stable above 10 to 15 miles per hour. This feels stable above about 3. It is absolutely amazing to ride. In addition, as you get going on this, it has a slipper clutch. So it is much like a clutch in your car if you drive a stick shift, if you're familiar with what that is nowadays, but it is a very soft clutch to go in and out. Your friction zone is what we call in the motorcycle world. Your friction zone is large, it is smooth, and is very easy to control. I absolutely love it. That in combination with the 6-speed transmission, you always have a gear for no matter what the situation is. I had the motorcycle up to 70 miles an hour on the highway coming home, and I was still only in 4th gear, and the RPMs were not above 5,000 RPMs. Now to give you an idea, this motorcycle redlines at 8,000 RPMs. I did take it all the way up to 6th just to see how quiet it would be. And at 70 miles an hour in 6th gear, I could not hear the motorcycle running underneath me over the wind noise coming through my helmet. One of the other parts of this motorcycle that is absolutely my favorite is the ability to control it. Now, while it is a very stable motorcycle as soon as you get up to speed, as I alluded to, and it does hold itself on the line and hold balanced very, very well, it is also very agile. The smallest control inputs of the handlebar, the smallest change of weight of my hips and just going back and forth, this motorcycle will respond. Overall, it is very easy to maneuver. Just the slightest movements and this motorcycle will continue to do what you need it to do. Also the brakes, very, very easy, very sensitive and easy to control, easy to understand. Remember, my riding style, I've been told I ride like I drive, and I drive like my grandmother, okay? So my driving style and my riding style are very conservative, but the brakes are very easy to feel. There's very little gap between when you start to pull on the brake on the handle or you push on the pedal, and you immediately start feeling that difference in the way the motorcycle is. One thing that I did get to play with, as I alluded to earlier, cruise control. I love it. I've never had cruise control on a motorcycle. I've never even had a throttle lock for that matter. But I gotta tell you, just the ability to lock it at speed, let go of your throttle hand, and just stretch your fingers. Let them do this a little bit. I didn't have a real need to coming home. It wasn't a very long ride, but man, getting to try it was a blast. I really love the fact that this bike has cruise control. Finally, the last first impression that I had that really amazed me with this motorcycle is the sound. In the motorcycle world, if you ride, you hear the saying a lot, loud pipes save lives. I disagree. We'll get into that debate at another time. However, there is some merit to it. The merit is the little bit louder your motorcycle, the more likely people are to hear you either coming or especially if you're right next to them in a vehicle. And I understand that, I get it. That's not for me. I don't enjoy a loud vehicle. I enjoy a nice, quiet vehicle. The safety and stuff, I can take care of that. I do a lot of things for safety, but I don't want that droning noise all the time on my rides or my trips. So for me, I enjoy that the FJR is a quiet motorcycle. There are sayings out there, people have commented that the brand new FJR, even some of the old ones, sound like a sewing machine when you're sitting at a stoplight. And I admit, because my wife sews, it does. It sounds a lot like a sewing machine. Very quiet, very subtle sound when you're sitting there at the light. I actually like it. It's nice. I can flip up the lid on my modular helmet and I can have a conversation with the driver next to me if I need to. It would be a lot of fun. When you get up at speed, the bike is a little bit louder, but as I mentioned to you earlier, when I'm sitting at speed and I drop it down to the 6th gear, it is so quiet I could barely hear it over the wind noise on my helmet. So overall, that is one of my favorite parts. You may disagree with me and that's fine, but one of my favorite parts of this motorcycle is just the sheer quietness or the low sound that this thing puts out. That's about it. My favorite parts of the new Yamaha FJR. This is a 2020 motorcycle and I look forward to doing a lot of rides and a lot of things with it. I will try to cover as much as I can. Now, the fun question is, what's next? As with any vehicle, and everybody does this, you plan on doing some things to make it your own. And yes, I already have plans for what I want to do to this Yamaha FJR. Now, keep in mind, I'm married with 3 kids. None of these things are going to happen quickly. I don't have a whole lot of money at my disposal. But as they do, I will make videos and cover them. I'll go over a few of what I'm looking for. Right now, one of my first modifications, and you remember again, I'm big on safety. I truly believe that with everything you ride, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the motorcycle ends up on its side. Whether you're riding at speed, or it's dropped in a parking lot, or you come out from a restaurant and it's pushed over from a restaurant in the wind or somebody, there's always going to be something at some point in time that it's going to end up on its side. And I hate to say it, but it's true. Even my concourse ended up on its side when it was left in a gravel parking lot and the wind pushed it over. So I've seen things happen, I've had things happen. And yes, I know you take a lot of precautions, okay? Don't make the comments, I already know they're gonna be down there, but just know that's one thing I protect for. So, first thing for me, T-Rex Racing out of Texas is going to be one of my first orders, and they make a engine cage or engine protection bars that are gonna go right up here on the front of the motorcycle, another hoop for the back of the motorcycle so that when it is laying over, if something were to happen, the body is protected and the fairings are protected. They're not crash bars. I don't like to use that term because a lot of people will think they're there to save you, much like your airbag system or something in your car. They're not a crash bar. They're just there to help protect the motorcycle, and I look forward to putting those on very soon. Another thing I look for is the windscreen. I alluded to earlier, I do like a little bit higher of airflow when the windscreen is up, so I probably will be looking at a taller windscreen at some time. I also have made notes, and some reflectivity is going to be a big thing. I'm not a huge fan of black. I will be honest, that is probably the least favorite part of this motorcycle. And it's not black. I don't know how well the video shows. This is black, if you can see a difference right here where my fingers are. And this up here where the body panel is, this panel here is black. The rest is actually what they call liquid graphite. It's a very shiny metallic gray. I am glad it's not all black, and it is a very nice color. It's really, really nice. I enjoy it. But it's one of the least favorite parts if there has to be something I don't like about this motorcycle. So one of my things is I'm going to make it a little bit more visible. This black panel is going to get a reflective sticker on it that at nighttime will reflect any light. And also on the back of the saddlebags, we'll be adding some reflectivity. So we'll cover those in future videos when they come, and I look forward to putting that on here as well. I also, of course, want to document this for you guys. I am not a big technology guy, but my son is more into technology and letting him play with some video editing, and I like to just get to share my opinions as a real guy, a real dad, not paid, not sponsored, not anything at this point, and share what I think about some of these modifications. So I want to add the ability to record some rides. I want to add some camera mounts or RAM mounts or something. I'm going to have to do some research to be able to cover and video my rides a little bit and share them with you and show you a little bit more about what I enjoy about the bike. And then beyond that, I have no idea. I don't know what else I'm going to want to put on here. I don't know what else I'm going to want to try. I've looked into some brighter taillight LEDs that have been out there that I've seen at T3. That's a really amazing light, and I've seen them in use. So thank you for sharing my video, and thank you for watching very much. God bless you, and remember guys, stay safe out there. Keep the tires down. But there's a lot more important things than just the motorcycle ride. So keep all your gear on all the time. Remember ATCAT, all the gear, all the time. God bless.